So today I've decided I'm going to do something with this really old Workmate style bench. Now, I don't use it very often, but it does come in handy sometimes to just pop up in the middle of the shop or outdoors. And it's obviously good because it's got some clamping ability and it's got some dog holes, but it's definitely seen some better days. And the top is just a really old piece of MDF really, and as you can see it's splitting away now. So I've got some laminated oak kitchen worktop, so I think I'm going to replace this top with some really nice solid oak, and I just happen to have plenty to do this job, so let's get on with it. So here's the spare bit of oak laminate top that I've got. It's not very flat, so I think the first thing to do is run it through the planer. And then after that we'll take it to the table saw, split it down the middle, one for each side of the Workmate bench top. I think then what I'll do is I'll just put a nice bevel around the edges with the router, mark out some dog holes, drill those up, finish and sand it, and then attach it back to the old chassis, and I think that will make it a much more usable bench, a much more sturdy solid top to work on. So over to the planer thicknesser. So as you can see, the original design is that both of the vice top pieces are the same width. They're about 120 mils in width. What I've decided to do with my nicely planed board now is I'm going to make the front side where the vice handles go the original width of 120, and then the remaining wood will be a lot wider on the back end of the bench. That'll just give me a bit more support on the back, and it won't really compromise its folding and storage ability. It'll just make it a bit taller. So that's the plan. So I've set my fence on my saw for 120 mil. So I'm going to call this the front side. So let's rip that down. Okay, so we've now got our front jaw and our rear jaw. This one's slightly wider. So I think what I'm just going to do now is just knock the edges off the three faces of each board, not the vicing surface. I'll leave that flat, but I'll put a bevel around the remaining edges just to soften them up. So let's hit that with the router. Okay, so I've put in a chamfer bit in my router and I've backed it off, so I'm not using the full depth of the cut, and I'll run the ball bearing around the three edges of each board, top and bottom, just to take off that sharp edge. Here we go. So there we have it, front and back. The nice chamfered edge. Okay, so I'm using the old face as a reference. I've centered this shorter length on the larger length. So what I'm going to use is the previous mounting holes to drill some pilot holes through into my oak, and then we'll know where we can fit it together. And it's also given us a bit of a guide of where our dog holes can go. There's clearly an area here where dog holes will not work due to the mounting frame and the vice bars underneath. So we've got some good guides here. So let's start by drilling these pilot holes. Okay, perfect. So we've got some marks there on this face, so let's just do the other side. Okay, looking good. So that takes care of drilling the pilot holes. So next, I think I might temporarily fix this to start my dog holes. Okay, so what I've done here is I've just put a screw through on 2 diagonals just so that the heads are poking through, and what I'll do is just locate those with the pilots that I've already marked, and when I feel they've sat in there nicely, which they have, I'll just tighten them down a little bit. And now these will act as jigs for me to drill some markers for my dog holes. So let's have a look in my 4s and a bit collection and see what we can find here. So they've seen better days, some of these. So let's find something that, yeah, that fits snugly there. So that will be the perfect thing. In fact, all I might do, what diameter is this? Yeah, so that's a 19 anyway, so that is about the perfect size. 19 or 20. So do I actually start to go all the way through? I guess I can use this jig as a way of keeping me upright, but I'll need to put something on the bottom. So let's have a go. I'm undecided of whether I need all of these bench jogs as well, but we'll see how easy it is to get through this before we make that decision. It's fairly solid wood. Yeah, this is going to take some drilling. That feels like I've gone through. Yes. Let's have a look. Yeah, okay. Yeah, they fit things in. Perfect. Okay. What's my appetite? How many of these things do I want to drill? I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll show you once I've decided how many I'm going to do. It might take me a good hour to get through this, so let's leave it at that for the minute and I'll join you later. Oh my days, that was hard work. I wish I could tell you I enjoyed drilling all of these, but I didn't. Didn't take the hour, I thought maybe about half an hour. Anyway, so the last thing I'm going to do with these holes is just clean these up with the same chamfer bit I used to clean up the edges of the board, and just to reface the tops of these holes to stop them splitting and make them a bit softer. So let's do that now. battery's gone. How about that? You can't write this stuff. Okay, we've got some juice back in our batteries, so let's try and finish these routes out. Okay, happy with that. So, what's next? Finish sanding. Yep, let's hit this with some sandpaper, give it a coat of wax, and then put it all back together, and then it'll be job done. Okay, so now it's time for a bit of finish sanding. I'm going to start with a 120 grit. Doesn't need to be mirror glass perfect. This thing's going to get used, it's going to get dented and scratched, but we'll give it a nice bit of a finish and then put some oil on it. Okay, so our boards have had a really nice sanding now. It's feeling pretty smooth and flat. So I've done that both sides and around all of the edges and just taken off any sharp corners I could find. So the last step now is just to give it a little bit of protection. I'm going to put some oil on it. So I'm just using a Danish oil here just to add to the top. That will just give us a bit of protection, a little bit of waterproofing. It should get splashed with anything. Yeah, the grain's really starting to pop with that now, so pleased with that. So we'll come back in a bit once this is all done and we'll get it installed and have a look at it. There we have it, folks. That's a much nicer top for my bench. Pleased with that. Let's get it all put together.